Hello, and welcome to Living English. Today, we'll look at giving instructions, how to tell people what you have to do to make things. Today in Sisters and Brothers, Anne cooks a meal for Sarah's family. So, let's see what's cooking.
What are we having?
Singapore noodles with prawns.
Oh.
It's a very famous dish. You can buy it at street stalls everywhere. I hope you like it.
I'm sure we will. So, what do we do first?
First we have to peel the prawns.
Oh, okay, I'll do that. Now what?
Now we'll fry the prawns. The oil must be very hot. It doesn't take very long. While I'm doing that, you can chop the leeks. Chop them very fine.
Like this?
Yes, sort of.
Now what?
Next we add the spices and some ginger and the leeks.
Okay, and now?
Now the leeks are soft, we put in some bean sprouts. And then the prawns and the noodles.
All in together. Is that all?
Almost. Lastly, we add some of this special sauce. Didn't think I'd be able to find this here. Your market's very good. That's it. We're almost ready. I hope your family's hungry.
I think I'll try that recipe myself. It looks easy, but delicious. Let's have a look at the order in which the meal is prepared.
First we have to peel the prawns.
Peeling the prawns takes a bit of time, and the meal is cooked very quickly, so it's best to do that first. They peel the prawns, and Sarah asks what the next thing to do is. Listen to how she does this.
Now what?
She means, what do we do now? Or, what's next? Practice saying, now what? With the clip.
Now what?
So what is it that we should do next?
Now we'll fry the prawns. The oil must be very hot. It doesn't take very long.
Anne said it doesn't take very long. She means it only takes a short time. We often use this expression for things that happen quickly. Try saying, it doesn't take very long with Anne.
It doesn't take very long.
In the next clip, listen for the word Anne uses to mean during the time that or at the same time as.
While I'm doing that, you can chop the leeks. Chop them very fine.
We say while to mean during the time that or at the same time as. During the time that Anne fries the prawns, Sarah chops the leeks. Let's have a look.
Like this?
Yes, sort of.
What does Anne do next?
Next we add the spices and some ginger and the leeks.
Okay, and now?
Now the leeks are soft, we put in some bean sprouts. And then the prawns and the noodles.
All in together. Is that all?
Is that all? Sarah means, is that all you need to do? And is it?
Almost. Lastly, we add some of this special sauce.
For the final or last thing, Anne says lastly. Lastly, we add some of this special sauce. She could have said finally. Finally, we add some of this special sauce. Now we're going to look at those instructions and change them so that we are talking about what happened instead of saying what is happening. First, let's listen again to what is happening.
Lastly, we add some of this special sauce.
To talk about that or report it to someone, instead of saying we add some special sauce, we say some special sauce is added. This is called the passive voice. We use the passive voice when who or what causes the action is not important. Compare the active phrase, we add some of this special sauce, to the passive, some special sauce is added. In the first phrase, we is the subject, the person or thing performing the action. And some special sauce is the object. It's the thing affected by the action. It's what we add. But in the passive phrase, some special sauce is the subject of the action. When we use the passive voice, we just say what happens to the subject and not what the subject does, by using a passive verb such as is added. Add is an active verb. It says what a subject does. Is added is passive. It says what happens to the subject. Some special sauce is added. Now listen carefully and think how this next phrase can be made passive.
Next, we add the spices.
Next, we add the spices. That's active. It says what we do. Add the spices. The passive is, next, the spices are added. That just says what happens to the spices. They are added. Notice that the active verb add changes to the kind of past tense called a past participle, are added. Now it's your turn to try some. This is the active. We show films in a cinema. What's the passive? Films. Films are shown in a cinema. This is the active. How do you pronounce this word? What's the passive? How is this word pronounced? Now listen to Anne use the active voice and then repeat what she says.
First, we have to peel the prawns.
First, we have to peel the prawns. That's the active. What's the passive? First, the prawns are peeled. And here's someone who's very active. Hello, Michelle.
Hello, Brenton. Hello, everyone.
What are we going to do today?
You're going to follow my instructions.
Really?
And you have to listen closely. I want you to follow my instructions and tell me what has happened in the passive.
Okay.
First, open this box.
The box is opened.
Next, take out the camera.
The camera is taken out.
Turn the camera on.
The camera is turned on.
Point the camera at me.
The camera is pointed at Michelle.
Take my picture.
Michelle's picture is taken.
Now we'll replay what Brenton did. And I want you to tell me what happened in the passive voice. Here's what I mean. The box is opened. You try. The camera is taken out. The camera is turned on.
The camera at Michelle. The camera is pointed at Michelle. Michelle's picture Michelle's picture is taken.
Now listen to Anne again.
While I'm doing that, you can chop the leeks.
You could say, while that's being done, the leeks can be chopped.
Yes, if you're writing a recipe. We use the passive when we are not sure exactly who or what is doing something.
What's a recipe?
A recipe is cooking instructions. I have a recipe here for iced coffee. I'll read it and you can follow it.
Follow it.
When we do what instructions say, we say that we follow the instructions. I want you to follow my instructions and tell the audience what you are doing using the active voice. Now you need a shaker, a kettle of hot water, ice cream, cold milk, instant coffee, sugar. Okay, let's start. First, 1 teaspoon of coffee is put in the shaker.
I put a teaspoon of coffee in the shaker.
1 teaspoon of sugar is then added.
I add a teaspoon of sugar.
Next, enough hot water to dissolve the sugar and coffee is added.
I add enough hot water to dissolve the sugar and coffee.
A scoop of ice cream is then added.
You say it this time. I add a scoop of ice cream.
The lid is put on and the contents shaken.
Try again. I put the lid on and I put the lid on and shake the contents.
Then the lid is taken off and the shaker is filled with milk.
I take the lid off and fill the shaker with milk.
Finally, the lid is put back on and the contents shaken vigorously.
Finally, I put the lid back on and shake the contents. Is that all?
Yes, except for drinking it. And that's all we have time for today. Next time, we'll look at the words we use to describe food and see if Anne's recipe for Singapore noodles is a success.